The following program is paid for by DeFalco Advertising and does not represent views and opinions of WCGV.
The following may contain harsh language, poorly communicated ideas, and does not reflect the opinions of iHeartRadio.
I do have lots of thoughts about this movie, though, and since we watched it, I haven't really stopped thinking about it that much.
Nor have I. Hello, everyone. We are talking about The Green Knight, Sean and I saw it yesterday together for the first time. I've been so excited to see this. I think because it was A24, because of the trailers, A24 is mark of excellence. So, some of my favorite movies the last few years have been A24 films, and I think The Green Knight will be no exception.
I read a lot of ancient texts and manuscripts and medieval research.
Sean, you gotta be
ridiculous.
I do. Sean, if you were to be asked, hey, so The Green Knight, I heard about, what's it about? What would you say?
I would say it's a retelling of a 14th century poem of Sir Gawain and his adventure with the Green Knight, but I would say
it's so very clear that you are reading from the scripts. For me, I would be like, you know what? This is a fever dream with special appearances by Apocalypse Now, Lord of the Rings, and a little bit of Saved by the Bell, because he's a teen and he's just doing teen stuff. Yeah, he's trying to find his place in the world.
He's trying to, prove that he can live a life of honor. Yeah.
Anyways, this episode is a very special episode, and so for a very special episode, we demand greatness, and so this is a commercial for the Green Slime 50th anniversary. The slime is now the Green Slime. All 2 hours and 10 minutes. It is absolutely beautiful. I think it's one of those movies. Every shot is the poster, could be the poster, and every shot is worth 1,000 words. And the Green Knight's amazing, and everything about it's amazing. And the
cinematography is beautiful. It's epic. It's foggy. It's soft focus sometimes. It's sharp focus other times. It's, the guy who did it was Andrew Palermo. It's gorgeous.
These would be the landscapes that the stories were based on, so it would be very.
Yeah, they shot in Tipperary, Ireland, it says, and near some place called Cahir Castle, and also in a studio.
First impressions. I really liked it.
It's breathtaking, and it rips off of 2001 so beautifully in such a creative way, because it ends up with the same kind of tilt up, tilt down, tilt up use of and you're seeing even the same shapes and stuff as 2001 that's used in that opening shot. The next moment is him waking up that he's having this dream of this prophecy happening.
Yeah, that does lose it. Dirty Tarantino toe, the whole dream thing.
He does have a lot of premonition, so to speak, in this film. And you're right, it does get very confusing at a point, which if you want it.
Well, when the movie devotes 20 minute, half an hour to a dream, it's okay.
That's really a 10-minute sequence you're talking about, but okay.
Well, it's a lot of story happening in that 10 minutes.
So without a single word being said. Oh
my God. So someone, you read that somewhere. Great. Okay. Anyways, so what are the differences between the
I watched it.
What are the differences, Sean, between the original scripts, the scrolls, whatever?
I think the main difference between his script is he wanted to really focus in on whether or not Gawain, played by Dev Patel, whether or not the question of how honorable he is, right? In the text of the original text, and they don't know the actual author of it, they call him the Pearl Man or something. Because they don't know the author's real name.
QAnon.
Now we got it. Yeah, we got it. Nailed that one. Every stage of this guy's journey, his honor is put into question, and whether or not he can accomplish something, or whether or not he's willing to carry through with something, or whether or not he's willing to fall to temptation, or at every point he's tempted with something. Even from the very beginning, when he's of course offered the opportunity to strike the Green Knight, he decides to behead him instead of simply slashing him or just pricking him or stabbing him or anything like that. He decides to behead him, even though the Green Knight makes a big spectacle of saying, whatever you do to me, that's what's going to happen to you in turn.
Yes.
So he wanted to prove himself as like this huge knight, right? And he thought
He
that
wants
he
to have
would
a
just
story.
kill the guy and be over with and done with it, right?
All right.
Unfortunately, the Green Knight is not human, like you mentioned. And David Lowery is focusing in on whether or not he is an honorable character or not. Now, like your original question was, how does it differ from the text, right? And in the text, the original text, like there's no question that Gawain is an honorable character. Like he never really succumbs to anything. He simply overcomes everything.
If you're not careful, you won't be able to come back to tell everyone how honorable you are, you see. And so if he was to have been beheaded, he wouldn't have been able to tell. And so this is the idea of like the hero, but just how heroic and how amazing are they, because they're still alive and they're still able to tell the tale. And so I have to think that what this story is also trying to say is like, yeah, our heroes are heroes, but let's not forget that they're still alive to tell the tale. And so there's a bit of suspicion. Right.
And that also ties into another change from the text to what this movie ultimately was, and that's the ending. And in the ending of the text, we know what happens once they come face to face. Like we don't ultimately know what happens at the end of this movie, right? Like Gawain comes clean, he removes his protective belt, and he tells him that he's ready for the blow. And the Green Knight says, "Well, then off with your head." And then it cuts to black, basically, it cuts to the title. And so in the original text, we do know what happens. The knight just gives him a cut across the cheek. Like he doesn't actually take his head off. He lets him go and he lets him go back, and then basically he lives out his life, and the rest of the Arthur tale unfolds as it does. We have like an ambiguity at the end of this film where we don't really know if that's what's actually going to happen here at the end of this movie, because it seems different. Because in a way, Gawain imagines this whole end of this film, which is this 10-minute sequence you talked about earlier, of like silence, where we see everything unfold in a way, but it doesn't actually happen, because he's imagining that this is what's going to happen if he doesn't hold strong and stay to his honor and take this blow, whatever happens. Like his whole kingdom is going to eventually fall down in ruin because of it.
It does remind me of, what is it, an occurrence at Owl Creek, the Twilight Zone episode, where the man is about to be hanged. And so in the show, the beginning of the show, he's about to be hanged, and then he gets free, basically lives and escapes and all this stuff. But then at the very end of the movie, we realized that was just a split-second idea, and he actually did hang.
You've got a Twilight Zone for everything, man. You've got a...
Rod Sterling, man. OG.
In the book, there's a character of Morgana Le Fay, who's actually the person who's in control of the Green Knight. And this is where I guess you could say it can differ a little bit from the text, although it could just be, the movie's so ambiguous that this could be what happens in the movie as well.
Well, it looks like the mother is trying to create a legend for her son. It looks like she's the one who did summon the Green Knight.
Yeah, it almost feels like she's summoning the spell to test her son, to prove that he can join the ranks of the king and then eventually inherit the kingdom. You know that blind woman who's in the Lord's room, who's in the Lord's house, like the mother, you assume it's like one of their mothers or something that's living there with them?
Yes.
It's actually like, the text makes it very clear that is Morgana Le Fay. That woman is Morgana Le Fay. So and Morgana Le Fay in this movie is Gawain's mother. Like that's a change from the text as well. Like in the text, Morgana Le Fay is not Gawain's mother. That's not what happens.
Yeah, but for me, like I'm like, who gives a shit?
David Lowery talked about how this movie was like, writing this film and this script was a way to like work out his own relationship with his mother. It became a drama about a mother and a son in a way that I hadn't intended. All of a sudden, I was writing about my own relationship with my mom and the fact that I stayed. I lived under her roof for far longer than I should have. I had failure to launch syndrome, and she eventually had to force me out. And then the other sequence that wasn't in the story originally was that sequence with Barry Keoghan, where he like gets robbed at gunpoint, which is another really strange sequence.
Such a menacing looking guy.
Yeah. You want to know where he got the idea for this sequence from?
Like, I don't know, Canterbury Tales? Like, is it just like the classic going from one place to another, and then halfway through you get robbed? Like,
you know what? You're probably not far off, because that's where this guy probably got the original idea. But it was from Kubrick, from Barry Lyndon. Like the original cut of this film was 3 hours long.
That's kind of exciting, because we'll probably get to see that, right? I think the most brilliant part of this film is Gawain's cowardice. It speaks to what legends are, how they're made, how heroes are created, the purpose, the meaning of being a hero and being a legend? Is it meaning to die? Because chances are, if you do what you want to do to be a hero, you will die. And so then what's the point of being a hero? You kind of save yourself right before the hard part.
Like, we imagine we would be something else, but we would probably be him flinching every time that guy raised his sword to try and strike.
It's very
down,
accommodating
right?
Green Monster, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a very nice Green Monster.
Like, in the story, they make it very clear who the Green Knight is in the story, and he is the Lord, who is Joel Edgerton in this movie, right? Like, they make it very clear that the Green Knight and him are the same person, and Morgana Le Fay has hypnotized him into the Green Knight to attack Gawain, all right? So in this movie, that's not very clear at all, and in fact, that's probably not the case, and he's probably not.
Maybe it was the 3 hour. Maybe it was in the 3 hour.
But there was that sequence, right, when Gawain walks into the Green Chapel and sees the Green Knight, and all of a sudden his face, there's a close up of the Green Knight's face, and like the face of the Green Knight goes through a series of different faces. Like, all the different actors in the movie's face gets superimposed over the Green Knight's face.
So cool.
And so, like, it's suggesting, Lowry was suggesting that, like, the Green Knight is every one of these characters, right? Like, is every one of us, it's a challenge that we all have to face. In the film, the Green Knight is much more of a supernatural entity created by Morgana Le Fay, as opposed to a character like he is in the original story.
Yeah, he's so ambivalent. He couldn't care, like, oh, are you here for that? Oh, right, okay, well, here. Like, he just doesn't care, and I find that fascinating. I think that, like, you know, him waiting around for the guy to wake up is fascinating, and there's so many different just kind of unique choices of.
Well, it's not a real thing.
What do you think the fox is?
It's like a golem or something. Okay, so the fox. I think the fox was some type of, like, talisman or something that Morgana Le Fay created to kind of, like, follow Gawain around and keep an eye on him and to keep things, like, going and to not necessarily put him at risk.
To turn back and you could tell everyone that you're a hero.
There are foxes in the original text, but it's more involved with the character of the Lord and his wife in terms of the hunt.
We're not even really sure if the fox is a good character or a bad character, and so it's so great. These characters that we come across, you have no idea if they're going to kill you or if they're going to be your best friend.
The last thing I want to talk about before we get to the Dirty Tarantino toes is that sequence with the Giants. That sequence with the Giants is just, like, to me, that was, like, where it became, like, a 2001, like, level type sequence. But here's the thing, like, do you think that actually happened? Like, do you think that was part of this world of this movie where he, like, went to this world of these giants? Or do you think he was hallucinating it from the mushrooms? Because I think that was, like, part of the mushroom sequence that was just got extended into it, right? Because
well, they don't make that clear. I think there's a lot of just psychedelic stuff that occurs in Green Knight.
From the opening sequence, that's what it is, right? Because the opening sequence is very trippy. Like, it's just from the way the camera moves to the way the
it sets the tone immediately. All right, everyone, this is the most exciting part of the show. This is the Dirty Tarantino toast. Sean, how many Dirty Tarantino toasts do you give 2021's The Green Knight?
I would give the film 9 Dirty Tarantino toes.
I'm giving it 9 as well. I'm giving it 9 Dirty Tarantino toes as well.
But I would also say that it has the potential to grow a full set of 10. I'm not there yet with it, but it could be one of those movies. I don't know. I really love this film, and I love this film because of how ambiguous it is and because of how it challenges the audience. And I don't think they make movies enough like that anymore. They really, really don't make films to challenge audiences anymore.
It was a pleasure.
I love Marvel films. I love Marvel movies. No one loves Marvel movies more than I do. And
shit.
Chris hates them. And yet I'm the one saying I hate how they don't make movies that challenge audiences anymore. And I hated the audience's reaction to this film. I don't know how you didn't notice it when the movie ended. Like, they did not like this film. Okay, then you were, sure, but I noticed everyone else, and they did not like this movie.
You know what you're doing, just, like, staring at me? I would be freaking out too, Sean.
It wasn't that hard.
If I saw you staring at me, I would not be a happy camper. All right, everyone. So this movie we did rate 9 out of 10.
I think that's the first time we've ever agreed on a rating score.
Fast of Night, I think we agreed on.
Maybe. Yeah.
Anyways, next week we'll be looking at The Blue Knight. Bye.